Wouldn't it be great if somebody developed a game where, follow me, this is crazy, but stay with me. A game where two players represent wizards or mages, if you want to sound cool, and they're playing cards to cast spells and summon monsters to attack each other, and they are reducing each other's health. It's like a duel. It's like a gathering of mages, and whoever defeats the other wins. Wouldn't it be amazing? Said no gamer ever. Well, maybe not ever, maybe 500 years ago people did say that. But since Magic and its immense progeny have been around, this hasn't been an issue anymore. Games of this kind have been very common in the last couple of decades, to the point that I've almost become a little prejudiced against them. Which is ironic. You become biased because you've seen something many times. Whereas bias should be not based on experience. So I usually don't play many of these games because even if I haven't played them yet, I have the impression that I have played them already. Yet sometimes I think it is important to challenge one's own assumptions, and I decided to try one such game. I was at Origins Game Fair 2015 and I saw a bunch of people on several tables that were playing Spellcaster, a game that immediately struck me for the simplicity, sobriety, and simple elegance of the art on the cover. Not really, but it's a cool cover. Just not particularly sober one. It's a cool cover, and it did seem like the kind of game that I usually don't play very often. So I decided, what the heck, I'm gonna give it a try. So I did play it, and I even thought, and not only this, I'm even gonna make a video review about this game, which is a dueling game in which two players, can be four if they're playing teams, are in fact controlling wizards or mages that are casting spells on one another using cards to perform different types of effects. Did I like it? Did I not like it? I don't know. Well, I kind of do actually, but you don't, not yet. And if you want to have the answer to this very relevant question, I suggest that you watch the rest of this video, because we'll try to solve that riddle in the conclusions of my review. In the game you will use a deck of cards that represent the spells that the mages are casting, spells coming for colors. Each color has a placard, which is where you will place the card once you play it. Once you play a card, you place it on the corresponding placard facing you. So if I'm sitting on this side, I'll play cards facing this way. If I'm sitting on the other side, I'll place them this way. You also have two sets of crystals. There's a sapphire crystals. If you ever manage to have 15 in your stock, you win the game. These are your energy crystals. That is life tokens, life points, call them whatever you want. When you go down to 0, you lose the game. Game is extremely simple. You draw a hand of 3 cards at the beginning of the game. Then at the beginning of each round, you also draw a card. You have a free draw each turn. Then you have 2 actions that you can take. And you can repeat the same action multiple times. An action can be to play a card. Another action can be to draw an extra card, or you can activate the effect of a card. Only some cards will be active as soon as you play them. In most cards, you play them, you place them there, but they don't do anything for you yet until you use one of your 2 actions to activate a card, in which case you spend the action, you declare the card that you are activating. It has to be facing you, and it has to be the card on top. Because of course, as players play multiple cards, the cards will form stacks, and only the one on top, only the one that is visible, can be activated. So for example, I could use one of my actions now to activate this card. This card is facing me, is on top, and I gain an energy for each card in my rival's hand. Here I choose 1, each mage gains 2 energy, 2 sapphires, so 2 cards. This is an effect that happens automatically, I do not need to activate it. And this is pretty much how it works. Players will simply play cards, draw cards, cover each other's cards, because sometimes you will want to play a card of the enemy, even if maybe that's not too profitable to you, it's not the best thing for you, because you want to prevent the opponent from having a certain effect which is particularly powerful. So cards will go in either direction. Players will draw cards, discard cards, launch powerful spells, perform actions to affect each player's stock of sapphire crystals and life points, and at the end the player who manages to eliminate the opponent or to gain 15 sapphires is the winner of the game. So, okay, Spellcaster actually is pretty good. I enjoyed it. I enjoyed it precisely because, yes, it has a certain family resemblance with other games, with wizards and spells that come from cards. But it is so immediate, so intuitive, so fast-paced, as opposed to, say, Mage Wars, which is a very good game, but it's a whole different type of beast because it's so much more involved and so many effects that you have to be able to control, to predict, to interact with. Magic the Gathering, even more so, you really need to have done a lot of homework to be able to know exactly how a large number of possible effects work and interact. In some cases, you're forming your own deck. Here, of course, knowing the effects does help you quite a bit, but I found that even if you just decide to jump off a cliff and find your wings as you are falling, you can still find those wings and you can still enjoy the ride or the flight. It is a game that is easier to pick up, it's very intuitive, and yet it has a couple of interesting decisions because of the limited number of actions. And basically, the two main trends in your decisions will be to go and attack in a round, play a card, boom, use that effect, play a card, boom, use that effect, or try to build up, playing more defensively. Maybe you play two cards to annul two effects of the opponent, to deny two powerful effects. You haven't done yet exactly, and maybe the opponent will do the same to you, or the opponent will switch strategies, so the next turn, after you build up a little bit of defense, after you slow down the attacks of the opponent, then you can come up with a good chain of effects. It definitely is a back and forth. I reduce you by 4 points, and then you heal 3. Then you reduce me by 2, and I inflict 1 more, and then I heal by 1. Until at some point the balance is not there anymore and one side starts gaining advantage. Shouldn't take too long. The game, from my experience of playing it, does not overstay its welcome. Even the back and forth effect, everything has some tension there because you're always waiting. Next card may be the one that is decisive, and you're also not necessarily just tactically responding to what you get in your hand or what the opponent is putting down, but also you're trying to build a chain of effects in your hand that will allow you at that point to launch a powerful breakthrough attack. So it is a game that, as opposed to other games with the same theme and the overall generic mechanic, has two advantages to me. One is that it is super simple to teach and to play, so even new gamers, new players still will stand a fair chance in the game. Another thing is that it still has interesting decisions and interactions to make. It is still not just a basic game in which you're waiting for the good card and you're putting it down, because figuring out the timing is key. You may have the best card in the world and the opponent immediately decides to cover it and you're done. Or you have two mighty cards, you play both, and then you see what happens. Maybe you have three mighty cards. In that case, you play them, and the opponent will have to deal with those. So you do have decisions that come from hand management, from responding to the opponent, and timing when it comes to your own actions. Enough things to keep me interesting. They don't make this game super deep. super complex, which is not necessarily a bad thing. It's a little more than a filler, not a full meaty game, but it's very accessible, easy and intuitive to play, and overall quite fun to play. Spellcaster by R&R Games.